On today's Apple Daily, why MagSafe might be the biggest news from Apple's keynote, which iPhone you should buy, and an update on AirPods Studio and AirTags. I'm David for Living on iPad, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. If you want the latest in Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe and ring the bell so that you can join my notification squad and get a shout out like the guy at the end of this video. Why MagSafe might be the biggest news from this Apple event. One of the most interesting things I think at this event was the fact that MagSafe is being brought back as a brand name, for one thing, because MagSafe was one of the coolest things you could ever have on a MacBook. It genuinely saved so many MacBooks from being destroyed when they were tripped over the cables and things like that. Stops them being pulled off. It literally just popped off the laptop and no harm done. However, with the iPhones, it's a very different reason for having it. It's more a Mag convenience than a MagSafe. However, if you look at the way that the videos look, it looks like it really snaps on there. It does not look like it is going to move. We've had a couple of questions in the comments down here, and obviously if you have any questions about anything we cover in these shows, please let me know down in the comments. If you want me to answer them on the video, then use the hashtag iCaveAnswers. That is how you will get a question featured on this show. I don't think there's been any that have been asked that I haven't covered yet, so that's what I'm trying to do. But it was mentioned a couple of times, how would you charge this on the go? Obviously, if you've got a battery pack or something that you would generally have your iPhone in your pocket and you have the cable on it or in your bag, how would that work come MagSafe? Now, I'm pretty certain from the way that it looks in these videos that MagSafe puck is going to be absolutely glued to the back of your phone. It is not going anywhere. The same magnets are being used by Belkin, I believe it is, for one of their car mounts for the dashboard. So you literally attach it to your air vent in the car and then you just pop your iPhone straight onto there. Now, I actually use in the back of my iPhone, I've got this magnet sitting here, which is literally a £1 magnet that mounts it to the dashboard of my car. Again, little puck that sits inside the car, so don't worry, the magnets themselves are going to be super strong. But I think what is more interesting is the fact that this is probably indicating that Apple will be dumping the Lightning port next year and not going to USB-C, but purely going over to the wireless charging using MagSafe. Why do I think that? I think if they were going to go over to USB-C, they probably would have done it this year. They've done the big redesign, they've done the retooling, they've done all of the external stuff that is going to be changed on the phone. Now, I think it would have been very simple for them, especially on the Pro models, to go over to USB-C if they had any intention of doing that, but I really don't think they want to. Now, with an iPhone, you want to make it as water resistant and as splash proof, dust proof, etc. as possible. The more ports you have on it, the more difficult that becomes. I wouldn't even be that surprised if they got rid of the physical volume buttons at some point in the future, just to make it even more smooth on the outside, because you can use Siri to raise and lower your volume. You can use the control center. There's a number of ways that you can do it. I think it might be a little bit inconvenient when they do it, unless they kind of train us towards that way in the meantime. But let's see, that's something that is probably a little bit further down the line at this point. I definitely think next year, no Lightning connector at all. Everyone that's been asking for Apple to move over to USB-C, they've misunderstood that there's just not going to be a next charging port. It's just going to be MagSafe. So what does that mean in terms of things like restoring your phone? There is going to have to be some way that Apple engineers can get into it to do restores. So it may well be that there's an internal port on those. If there's a serious issue with your phone where you need to take it into a Genius Bar, there'll be some sort of port on the inside that they can attach to a Mac somehow, but it's not going to be something that we use on a day-to-day basis. Bearing in mind as well, we're looking at 15-watt charging through MagSafe, which is the previous iPhones came with a 5-watt charger in most cases. I believe the last year's Pros might have come with a more powerful one, but you're not actually going to be dropping any charging speed by going to MagSafe. It looks like that's actually going to be really cool. Maybe they'll even bump up MagSafe to 20 watts next year. Yes, expect that MagSafe is going to become a more prolific thing as well. I would expect that at some point Apple Silicon Macs might well have MagSafe built into the palm rests. This is something that we've seen patents for, is having a charging pad in the palm rest, so you could actually just pop your iPhone onto one side of the trackpad and charge your phone right there. Same with your AirPods, same with your Apple Watch. That would be really cool. Next up, which iPhone is right for you? So this year's iPhone range is not as simple as it has been in the past. We've got 4 brand new phones. We've got a lot of phones sticking around. We've got the iPhone SE at the bottom end, then the iPhone XR, which is a bit older than the SE, but more expensive because it's got the new style design. Then we've got the iPhone 11, which has now picked itself up a little bit of a price drop. So that's dropped by $100. So it is not a simple exercise in which iPhone is right for most people. So looking at this year's iPhones lineup, right, we are going. You guys can follow along with me as well on the screen because I will show you everything that I'm looking at here on the iPad as we go through. But iPhone 12 Pro versus iPhone 12, those are the 2 brand new ones that will be first to arrive. To be completely honest, they are very, very similar. This is something that Tailosive Tech has just pointed out. Very similar. So, starting off, Super XDR display on both at 6.1 inches on both. 5G with the millimeter wave on both. The biggest difference so far is the price is $200 apart. Ultra wide, so you've got an extra camera on the iPhone 12 Pro. You've got Dolby Vision at up to 60 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second. Obviously, you've got the optical zoom that goes up to 4x with the telephoto. 2x is the kind of standard lens that's in the middle for the Pros and is the more zoomed in one because the regular iPhones now get just the ultra wide and the regular. You've got the LiDAR for night mode, portraits, faster autofocus in low light, and next level AR experiences, and hopefully at some point soon that beautiful portrait video that we want so much, that I definitely want so much because I've been going on about it for so long. Face ID on both, obviously 17 hours of video playback, ceramic shield front, 4 times better drop resistance on both, stainless steel on the one and aerospace aluminium on the other. Water resistance is the same on both, MagSafe is the same on both. Capacities, you do get different starting points in terms of storage. Other than that, we're like really struggling to find differences here. If you look, it's very similar. 625 nit max brightness versus 800, so that's where we're first getting a bit different. But then on HDR, they can both do 1200, so actually they are both the same display, I think, just set up differently. The iPhone 12 Pro is heavier because of the stainless steel. Other than that, size-wise, they're absolutely identical. Literally as if they've been machined using the same machines. 146.7 millimeters in height on both. 71.5 millimeters in width on both. Same chips, basically the same cameras, except you've got the Pro RAW photography built into the Pro. I genuinely don't think anyone should buy the 12 Pro. That is a big statement. I think the 12 Pro just doesn't make much sense. The 12 Pro Max does because it's got better cameras even than the 12 Pro because it's got the bigger sensors, which is just going to make a massive amount of difference in the dark. They've said 87% more light going into there, 87% better in the dark. Don't know how you measure in the dark in a percentage, but apparently they do. The 12 nothing I think is a decent option for a lot of people. Right, let's go back though. The 11 is also pretty good if you're not that bothered about the OLED display. But if you don't care that much, because it's still a really good display, then the iPhone 11 is going to be a really compelling option for you. So $100 less, same size, looks basically the same, other than it's got the rounded edges instead of the flattened off sides as the new ones have. It doesn't have MagSafe. That's going to be sad because that looks really cool. Other than that, very, very similar. Even the cameras themselves, very similar. It's an A13 chip instead of an A14. The A13 is pretty powerful. It's not a massive jump up to the A14 in terms of the performance, but it will make a difference. iPhone XR. This is the one that I think it's a really great budget option, but it's using a slower processor. It's using the A12, which is from the iPhone XS and the XS Max. So this one is going to be a little bit slower. It is going to chug compared to the A14s and A13s, but it's another $100 off. Really good value. Looks great. Still a cool looking phone, to be fair. It's a little bit chunkier than the 12s. Again, it's a really compelling option. The SE, if you want the speed but you're not too worried about having Face ID and the expansive display that doesn't have bezels, then that's a really good option too. And also it's got Touch ID, so if you're out and about and you find that wearing a mask is a real pain because you're using Face ID all the time, it's got Touch ID. So I have in my pocket, generally, I have an iPhone 8, which is my work phone, and an iPhone XS, which is my personal phone. And I do find myself occasionally just grabbing the 8 out of my pocket for checking Facebook and stuff, purely because I don't have to type in my passcode if I'm out and about and I've got a mask on. So that could be a compelling option for some people as well. In all honesty, I am going to say, I don't think anyone really should be picking up the iPhone 12 Pro. If you want a Pro phone, you should probably go for the Max because you've got 47% bigger camera sensors. That is going to make a huge difference. It just seems to be a lot more capable than the iPhone 12 Pro. I personally would prefer to have the 6.1-inch display if it had the best cameras. But to get the larger display and better cameras for $100 extra makes all the sense in the world for me to go up to the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is what I have put my chip down on today with my carrier. I've registered my interest for that phone, so it's going to be a month away, but it's actually only 2 weeks after the 12s and the 12 Pros come out, so I'm not too worried about it. It's a month from now that I should have that phone in my hands. Very excited. Breaking news. So apologies that today's show is a little bit disjointed, but I typically record most of my show in the evening and then go to bed, wake up in the morning, come and edit it. But today there's been a bunch of stuff that's happened overnight, so we're going to just cover that. And this all comes from the Twitter of Mr. John Prosser. A lot of people were expecting a bunch of products that didn't end up coming out on Tuesday at the iPhone event, and John Prosser has kind of given a bit of detail around what was going on there. So on the day he actually tweeted a little cryptic bunch of letters. Turns out he said this was a secret message because he didn't want Apple to know that he had some information, because they would have then changed their plans and cancelled a meeting. The specific message was, very important internal meeting happening soon that could totally change product timelines, but I can't tell you that I know because Apple will know that I know. Didn't want them to cancel the meeting. They had the meeting. First, major hiccup in AirPods Studio production. A few key features have now been cut. It seems they will still need to work on some things before we have final units, looking like they won't be ready to ship until December at best. So we could be waiting now until next year, potentially March time, for AirPods Studio. Technically, that means if everything goes smoothly and no further delays arrive, they could still announce in November to ship in December, but it's just as likely that B515, the AirPods Studio, don't see a release until March 2021. So he's given us all the information he can there. He's even given us the product name, which is the product code, which is something that he would definitely not have if he didn't have actual inside info. Second, with AirPods Studio now being pushed back, it looks like Apple is going to launch AirTags after all. Currently, they're on the schedule to be released with iOS 14.3. iOS 14.3 will contain features enabled for AirTags, and iOS 14.3 is supposed to be next month. So, unlike AirPods Studio, AirTags have been done and ready. It's not even about production timelines with this product at this point. Basically, it comes down to when Apple feels like the right time is to put them out. So they are ready to go, they are there, and they are they're sitting there in boxes waiting to be released. Pretty cool. So he also then goes on to say, because those are the kind of two big bits of news, after WWDC, he reworked all of his sources and guidelines for how he leaks stuff. Since then, 88 additional confirmed leaks, 85.2% accuracy is his current rating. That's up from 67.6% in June. So he's done a really good job. That's those ratings are via Apple Track. Apple Track, very, very worth checking out. It does give you a good read on how accurate different Apple leakers are. Now, on to the notification squad. As usual, we have got a new member, Lucky La Llama. Lucky La Llama has been, again, a member for quite a while. Never told me in the comments, but he has said he wants to be shouted out at 100,000 followers instead, 100,000 subscribers. So I've said I will do one now, and if he reminds me, I will do him another shout out at 100,000 subscribers. So if you guys can all share this video so that we can get up to that 100,000, that would be really handy. If we can do it by next week, that would be super cool. Thank you for joining me on today's show. I've been David using Sangwell for Living on iPad, and this is your show for today. Join me back again tomorrow, and make sure you ring that notification bell so you can get your shout out next.